Are we recording?
Today's video is we become better through conversations. That's why habits change faster when they are discussed honestly. We become better through conversations. That's why habits become change faster when they are discussed honestly. I don't know if this comes out of me as a confident statement or if this kind of comes out with this is a thought, elaborate on it. But it does sound to be truthy. So, uh, funny, truthy, right? Because it's a reflection of how I see things from my reality. So this kind of makes sense. And okay, so the first part is we learn better through conversations. Uh, it's true we could be having meaningless conversations, and we can be having meaningful conversations. And meaningless conversations are still kind of like allowing us to explore things at a different level. But ultimately, if it's a meaningless conversation, there's no point in exploring it. Then effectively, what it would be doing is reaffirming something. And it's probably a pattern that allows us to be okay with maybe repeating conversations, maybe just having small talk, all that kind of stuff, right? And it's not really about depth because you can discuss a lot of stuff with people. You don't really have to understand how you think. You can discuss hobbies, habits, things you're interested in, whatever. So we become better through conversation only makes sense because ultimately, when you're trying to explore something, you're either exploring it with yourself, so you speak to basically yourself, and that's a conversation, and the way you speak matters, or you explore it with the world and you utilize people. Should I stick to conversation just being like a vocal thing, or it could just be the interaction that translates into a back and forth? So technically, a conversation is that, but it's a vocal interaction. La 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 la. I am using my voice, the sounds I make, to communicate something to you. You're doing the same. I'm understanding you. It could be the same as if I were trying to kind of like having a conversation with the guitar because you kind of want to communicate with the guitar using your hands on the strings, and the guitar communicates back with the sound. It's the same with logic when we're actually approaching, when we're creating code. What we're doing is we're communicating with the actual like computer through the code we're writing, and the computer is responding with basically the output of whatever it is that we're doing, because technically that's what we're doing. And so overall, we have that conversation's kind of like anytime you're saying something you already know, you realize something new about it. It's either something new about it and you understand it differently, or something new about you, or about it's something new about it that tells you you need to look at different things, right? So you're either kind of like diving deeper or exploring horizontally. So vertical growth or horizontal growth. What would that Z axis be like backwards? If the Y axis is depth and the X axis is basically scope, then what would be the Z axis? I'll think about that. I hope you guys are kind of catching up. I'm loving this. I don't know. So the art of communication. Still at 4 minutes. Wow. So conversations are basically communicating. We can use it at that. That's why habits change faster when they are discussed honestly. And I think the thing that shines bright at me right now is honesty. Honestly, habits change faster when they are discussed honestly. So again, like there are conversations that are, and I split them the most basic way possible, which is basically meaningful and meaningless. But I think that's off. That's wrong. I think there are conversations that contribute to the things that we want to be doing, and there are conversations that contribute to the things that we're trying to get away from. Because if you're any decision you're making towards something is a decision from something else. It, I'm standing here. I'm gonna take a step forward. I'm moving in that direction the same way as me moving further from this direction. So we can literally split conversations and come to a conversation that expands something within you, or a conversation that solidifies. Now look at how we split them. A conversation that expands, a conversation that expands versus a conversation that solidifies something. I think this is beautiful. So what we did right now is we took something because we're always using the terms almost always, and I see it everywhere, positive and negative. I don't get it. I don't get it. What's positive for me could not be positive for someone else. What's positive for someone else probably is not positive for me. Basic foundational aspect of human beings. So when I'm looking at a conversation, there are conversations that actually expand, be it your scope or your depth of understanding or just the x-axis. I need to get the x-axis. Right now we're still two-dimensional because we're working on horizontal, which is scope, and vertical, which is basically depth. What is the z-axis? There's height and there's vertical, horizontal, and depth. What would be vertical? What would be a vertical expansion of something in a conversation? Because understanding something more through a conversation is basically diving deeper into something. But then the horizontal aspect of something is basically the different elements that it interacts with. So what is the vertical? Is it the knowledge of those elements for us to be able to dive deeper? Because the first thing you do is explore the elements, and then you know stuff about them, and then eventually you start understanding why these stuff matters. So I think yes. So the depth, the vertical one is knowledge or information. So there's the horizontal stuff, which is the scope of, which is the scope of something. X-axis, scope, Y-axis, information, and Z-axis is basically what is the depth slash understanding. All right, I'll just write something about it at the end. I made 2 notes when I'm talking to you. Look at that. But anyway, so uh, we become better through conversation. That's why habits change faster when they are discussed honestly. Honesty tends to dissipate illusion. The truth dissipates illusion because the truth is exactly how it is. And if you actually are able to accept the truth for the way it is, then what happens is it basically just it shatters all forms of illusions that you have. And effectively, when you're discussing, when habits are discussed honestly, the discussion is basically the conversation that I'm talking about. They get to be held accountable for their, for why they are there, for why they are important to our day, for why the habit is something that became relevant. All the questions you ask about like something, right? Remember, what we're doing is through a conversation, we're exploring and horizontally, we're exploring the scope of whatever's happening. We're exploring the information that we can get of whatever's happening, and we're exploring depth, which is the understanding of whatever's happening. And I feel I'm going to read it one last time before I kind of like end this note because I thought of a lot of stuff with you guys right now. We become better through conversations. That's why habits change faster when they are discussed honestly. It's a video, and I want to thank you that I don't know. I wrote two notes because of this video, man. I'm kind of like feeling very good. All right, it's a video. Woohoo!